I made an interface to make it easier to explore the similarities and differences between perspectives. So for example, if I type the phrase, "this is something," and I can see the phrase, "this is something," and then the words that make it up. And I can also click on those words and then see this, and then if I want to, I can represent that with different nodes and then change the color of those, so on and so forth. Stuff like this. And the advantage of doing things in this manner is that it allows me to say, this is what dreams are made of. And then have that something that I can consistently return to. And then go back to my original concept. I didn't save that time. Parse. And then see, this is something. So if I click on the this node here, whoop, why is that not working? I see, there we go. Then it took me to the concept that I had before. And that's pretty useful for exploring one perspective. But I think the interesting thing is that you can represent multiple perspectives. There are some bugs. This is just a proof of concept. By changing the perspective color, and then you can compare which these two perspectives have in common. And there are a few things that you can change about this as well. So if I say perspective equals 1, then this enables perspective mode and makes them significant. Then I can go back and say, this is something, change the color, and this is something. And now these two are entirely separate. Right now, there isn't a mechanism that allows me to specify that this is the only perspective that I'm referring to. So if I click on both of these and then add something like, these are my thoughts, and save the page, I refresh that, there isn't any difference between these two tabs now. But I think this is an interesting concept, because as you're having conversations with people, you're trying to understand what you're actually saying and what you believe, it can be helpful to be able to point to specifically, is it just that we're using the same phrase, but the words that we're using have different meanings for some reason? Or is there something fundamentally different about how we're structuring our thoughts? And this is available on factshift.com/arena. There are some things, some quirks about how it works. So for example, you see that there's this path. This path doesn't work on factshift.com because of where I'm hosting it. I'm not paying for a server right now because I want to make sure that it's, for one, the concept is accessible and can be implemented by anyone, and for two, because I want to do that when I have a job. So that's in the works. Right now, the code base is written with just vanilla JavaScript using some pretty ugly code. I have another code base that I spent about 1.5 years working on that's more of a React application code base that's startup ready, I would consider. That's ready for where we are with artificial intelligence, and that the code base is structured as if multiple developers would be working on it, so on and so forth. So as I'm continuing to flesh out this basic concept, I'm also going to be working on developing a course where I walk you through the process of what happens when you have a minimum viable product and you want to bring it into the domain of being able to onboard new developers, and what that would mean. Like if you're onboarding developers that have very little experience and you just want to make sure that you have somebody putting eyes on the code that you write, or if you have developers that are a bit more experienced and you can communicate with a bit more nuance. There are a lot of really interesting features, I think, and I'll continue to flesh out what these mean and so on and so forth. But that's where we are. Stay tuned.